can't believe I just found out that my great-grandmother may just have a secret child. Now, as crazy as that sounds, DNA does not lie, and I think I just dug up one of her skeletons. I can honestly tell you this ancestry DNA stuff has definitely been something else. I feel like each time I go in there, I go down a rabbit hole and I find out more and more and more information about my ancestors that have long been gone. So this is definitely has to be a part one of this story time because it's such a long story, but I really think I just found out that my great-grandmother had a baby that she gave up. Now, like I said, this is a long story, so I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. Now, back in 2017, I did do an ancestry DNA test. When I did the test, it really was just to find out my origins, find out, what my ethnic background was, things like that. I didn't really go in there to find anybody per se, because I didn't think that it was anybody to find, but they found me. So I had a match that popped up. His name is Melvin. He's from Philly. And he popped up as a high match to me. We shared about 291 centimeters of DNA. Based off of that amount of DNA, it could be a different possibilities of relationships to me. Now, mind you, I don't know this man. Never met him, never heard his name, anything like that. His last name is not a familiar last name with anybody on my family. Shows up on my maternal side. After doing some digging, I realized that he's on my maternal side through my mother's father. Now, unfortunately, I never met my grandfather. He passed away before I was born. I also don't remember my great-grandmother. She passed away when I was young, maybe about 4 or 5 years old. Didn't really have a relationship with her, so I really don't know her as well. The only people on that side of the family that I did know are my great-aunts, my great-uncle, and a bunch of cousins, because they all lived in Philly. So those are the only people that I know. And as of right now, I only have 2 living older relatives, which is my great-uncle and my great-aunt, which they were the 2 youngest of the siblings. From my understanding, there was about 8 siblings, including my grandfather. So, like I said, those are the only ones that I knew. Now, over the years, I really couldn't put together how we were matched, because I really don't do any research on my maternal side, because I kind of know everybody on my maternal side, but I've always wanted to come back to my match to kind of figure out how we were related. And over the years, I've been trying to put 2 and 2 together, trying to figure out different relationships. Couldn't really put it together. So one day, I decided to kind of fall back from it, and it took me maybe about a couple of months, and I said, let me go back and look at this again from a different angle. So when I looked at the results again and I compared it with my half-brother, who's my brother on my mom's side, and I seen that he actually shared more DNA with my brother than me, I'm like, wow, so this guy really is up there. So he's definitely closely related. And based off of Ancestry, DNA, and DNA Painter, it was pretty much saying like this man is either like he could be a first cousin one time removed, a half first cousin, a second cousin, a half second cousin, those type of things. So that was letting me know that his relationship was kind of close, because if you're that high up and sharing that much DNA with me and my half-brother on my mom's side, as well as a lot of other relatives that I did recognize on my grandfather's side, I'm like, so I knew he was related through my grandfather, or at least through, my grandfather, my great-grandmother. Just didn't know how. But I know it's like, a first cousin, second cousin type relationship, and that's actually fairly close. If someone is your first cousin, second cousin, you either share a great-grandparent or a great-great-grandparent. So, like I said, that's very close. Now, unfortunately, with me, like I said, not knowing my great-grandmother or my grandfather, I can only go off of things that I've been told or things that I know for sure. So based off of what I know, I knew all the siblings. There was no I didn't know there was any type of possibility of another sibling, because no one's ever talked about any other child that my great-grandmother had or my great-grandfather had. And there was no, talks of adoption, anything like that within the family. But we already know how that goes. Sometimes with family, they don't discuss everything, and a lot of things are, as the old saying, swept under the rug. Now, more recently, like I said, I decided to look into this a little bit further. And now we have good things like ChatGPT, which kind of helps us out with a lot of things. It's like Google search to the 10th power. So I'm like, let me utilize all my resources now to get to the bottom of this, because after speaking with my cousin, I'm like, wow, like he, went through a lot, and it's important for him to know who, whose parents, but he wanted to know who his grandparents are and who, his family was on his mom's side. So we know for sure we're related. We just don't know for sure how. Until I decided to do a little bit more digging. Now, anybody that knows me knows this ancestry stuff has been my hobby, and went from being a hobby to something I actually take very seriously now, because I am finding family and connecting family and helping others out with their searches as well. I'm on Ancestry every single day, more than once a day. I'm heavily involved. So now I'm now is beyond my curiosity, and now I want to know. I'm sorry to my ancestors. I know y'all probably didn't want us to find out these things, but unfortunately with technology and DNA testing, all of those secrets are coming to light. And people want answers. They want to know who their family is. They want to make sure that you're not dating your family. You want to make sure that, you know who your people are. What I found very strange with this is that not only is Melvin high up in DNA with me, but finding out that he lived in Philly his entire life was actually a little crazy to me, because my whole family lives in Philly. My grandfather, his parents, my aunt, my great aunts, my great uncles, my cousins, all live in Philadelphia. And actually not too far from where he grew up at. And talking to him further, I find out that not only did he live close to someone that is a second cousin, but also great uncles and great aunts as well that were related to my great grandmother. One of them being her brother. So yeah, the plot thickens. So now I'm really trying to figure out how this man is related to me. What cousin is he? Is he a first cousin? Is he a second cousin? Where's the connection? Now, luckily for me, like I said, I had a couple people on my grandfather's side that has taken a DNA test, so he connected to them as well. So that kind of backed up what I already, was guessing, is that he's related to me through my great grandmother. How is he related to me through my great grandmother? We need to figure that out. So from what he advised me is that, his mother, actually both his parents were adopted. He didn't know too much about his mother's upbringing and, how that came about. But like I said, I had to do my digging. Once I did my digging, I started comparing DNA, and based off of my findings, it seems as if, based off of the possible relationships we have, the most probable one is this man is my first cousin one time removed. First cousin one time removed just means he's just one generation away from me, so that means that he's my mother's first cousin. So if you're my mother's first cousin, that means your mother is related to my grandfather. And if you are my mother's first cousins, that also means that your mother had to have been siblings with my grandfather. Yeah. I'm gonna have to do a part 2 because, like I said, when I realized that, I'm like, okay, how is this possible? How is this possible? How did my great grandmother do this? I'll come back for part 2.